So in my last video in this series on mushroom propagation, I guess you'd say, I created some spore prints. So basically I took the oyster mushroom caps, I put it down on this tin foil that I had sterilized, and I let that sit out over basically overnight or close to a full day. They probably could have been left here longer, but after I took them off, there was like a fine little circle, white circles where all the spores had dropped. Now what I did was before I get to this awesome looking syringe, I took a knife, just, any old knife, and I sterilized it. In this case, I just wiped it down with some 91% alcohol, and I used this to scrape up the spores. And then I added all those spores after I got them all scraped up because they dried. For the most part, I will admit, some of the areas were still wet, but I just sort of scooped those up with a knife, and I transferred them to this pot. Now I boiled a little bit of water. I've made some syringes, but you can see I still have some water in there with spores. I actually boiled this for about 10 minutes. In this case, I just used my well water, but you probably, I've used distilled water in the past, so it's something to do, especially if you're concerned about your water, especially if you have city water with a lot of chemicals in it, that could be a problem. But I have well water, so boiling it's fine, just to make sure there's no nasties in it. So I have a number of these syringes. You can actually order these syringes off Amazon. Now to get the actual needles, you will have to, I don't know, it depends on your state. Some state you can buy these at the pharmacy without a prescription, but usually you need a prescription to get needles. So one thing you can do if you're in a state that requires a prescription and you don't actually have a legitimate, I guess you would say, reason to have needles, you can actually go and order these from veterinarian supplies because they usually don't ask for human prescriptions to get needles. So that's one way to get needles for these. Now in this case I'm using the gray tipped. This is a gray tipped one. I think that's 20 gauge, but basically anything higher than 16 gauge works. You don't want it too big of a needle, but too small of a needle, and it's really hard to work with. So really anything is fine. It's going to be tipped. I'll actually, hopefully without sticking myself. So that's a pretty thin needle. But that is that. And if you end up reusing the syringes, which you can, just wash them out. And I've actually been using my Instant Pot to sterilize them. See, a little veggie steamer. I put them in there after they've been all washed out, and I put it in for about 10 minutes on high. And that does pretty well of killing anything that might be in there. Again, to get it sterile-ish, you're not going to get 100% sterility. You're not going to get 100%, perfect, clean laboratory. This is all at home, but, do whatever you can to make sure that all your equipment's clean, because when it comes to mushrooms, growing mushrooms, cleanliness is next to godliness. So basically, after I've sterilized the things, if they're not brand new, I just suck up some of the solution. The solution, you can see how foggy it is because there's tons of spores. I ended up taking, I think, over a dozen caps. So there's tons of spores. And oyster mushrooms are known for dropping a ton of spores. So you can see how cloudy that is. That is going to be nice inoculate for when I do spawn jars. And I'll go over that in a different video. But I'm going to end up using 1 milliliter per pint jar of grain. And I'll talk about that again. Separate video. I'm doing, I guess, a series on mushroom propagation. So you just suck a little bit of that up and put the cap on it, put it into a plastic bag, date it, whatever kind of mushroom it is. In this case, again, it's oyster. And you're just going to store these in your fridge, and they will last for possibly years. Hopefully you'll use them before then, but there you go. And that's a really quick and easy, really quick and dirty way of creating spore syringes for your mushroom propagation. The next video I'm going to do is actually creating and sterilizing in a pressure cooker the grain jars, and I'll talk about that in the next video in the series. So thank you so much for watching. I'm really excited to be getting into mushroom propagation and growing mushrooms, and I hope you're excited as well, because I'll be doing tons of videos on all the techniques I use. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this, I realize this is just a quick and dirty explanation, but if you have any questions, please comment, put them in the comments below. I will definitely do my best to answer them. I don't claim to be a super expert on the topic, but I definitely want to provide you any information I can. So thank you for watching, and thank you for joining me on this journey.